Captain it, passing and then caption me, trapped me instead. Happy to die, now we're wrapped in the sheets of your bed. Ooh, no, the only way I need it. All right. Good morning. Good morning. It is May 20th. It is 6:30. Hopefully everyone had a good weekend. Take a little disclosure. Push you away, away. Oh, I pull you. Yeah, good morning, good morning. It's 6:31, it's May 20th. My name is Scott Redler. I'm the Chief Strategic Officer of T3Live.com. This is the 6:30 Club where we on Monday through Thursdays, we go over the narrative of the market, where we're at, where actively we can make some cash flow. I try and give you guys a little bit of education and a little thoughts on what you can be doing, long term, intermediate term. Lots of different ways to approach the market because everyone's different. Some people like to have long-term flows that go in every single month that the bull market usually wins. Some like to mimic my blood in the street account when I start buying when there's a bit of blood in the street, and that's now 16 for 16. And others try and actively trade for a living like I do on top of all of that, and we try and go over where the action is and what to look for so we could be prepared. Cheers to everybody tuning in. Sorry I wasn't here on Friday. I had things I had to do, so there was no weekly chart that I usually post, but you know what? It is what it is. Anyway, let me say hello to some of my dogs before we go. We got It's in the house. We got Moonshine. We got Ryan from North Dakota. We got Ali, always persistent or not persistent, consistent. We got Sully. Good morning to you. Good morning, Scott Gideon. We got Blair from the Alpha team. All right, so where are we at? Let's go. Let's see. Hold on. I'm going to press present so I could share the screen. Let's go share screen. And here we go. Entire screen. There we go. And looky. There's the chart of the S&P cash. All right, so real quickly, everyone's like, oh my God, Red Dog, how did this happen? How is the market so strong? Well, again, historically, over time, the bull market does win, but if you trade actively, you have to look for a few things. If you remember, right here is where we put the BOS account to work, and then the way my discipline is once it makes a new all-time high, I take that off, goes back in a fixed rider, which was right here. And now 53.25 is the high, and you had a little bit of a low on Friday, and we'll see as the 8-day catches up, what could go on this week. We're obviously going to have to respond well to Microsoft and Nvidia in order to get another move. But if you look here, the red dog reversal after the Fed with a gap up above the wedge. So look at that, what I just talked about, a red dog reversal that you've learned, a wedge pattern, which we look at patterns on the Saturday. Remember, take your 4 minutes. And then, hey, how many times have I spoken about the 8-day moving average? When we're above that, you try and be in some kind of portfolio approach. You try and have risk on so you can get paid. And we've been above this 8-day moving average since May 3rd. Oh my goodness, it's May 20th. Here we are. So with that being said, you've had a lot to do. You could have made money in silver and gold and uranium, in Bitcoin, in different tech names, like you name it. If you're complaining, you're probably just shorting the market and you're listening to those who say this isn't going to end well. Or if you're having a good time and you're massaging your process, chances are you're hanging out here with the Red Dog and some of the other great resources on Twitter. So anyway, let's talk about this week. Let's real quickly go into mega cap tech. So Microsoft is presenting today a lot of different, I'm not even going to make believe that I know everything they're doing today. All I know is that we're above the 8-day. In order to get to 430.82, it's got to get above and stay above 425.81 and 430. Microsoft has not done anything really since February. Talking February, March, April, May, 4 months it's been in this channel. So what did I do? I bought some 430 calls. What do I have on here? Just in case it wants to really ignite. Yeah, 430 calls for this week in case this wants to continue to the upside. Sometimes they sell the event. That's the way they do it. They like to sell the event, but if they don't and they're that impressed, maybe there's a move here. So I think Microsoft is worthy of looking. Okay. Then you have Meta that has come in a bunch. Meta is actually really tight. I also, in Meta, I bought some options for this week, thinking, hey, if we do have one more move, if Nvidia plays along and this wants to get going, you've had a bunch of different trades here with Meta. First trade was the gap fill. Remember that trade above 446. Now, you take this out of the way, it's getting pretty tight here. So what I did, last week, because I wasn't going to be here Friday, into this weakness, I bought some 485 calls. So if this stock wants to play a little catch up, if it wants to get going, it's got to get above and stay above right there, this 482. And then you have a whole big void here. Again, even Meta, everyone talked about only the 7 stocks that'll push the market to all-time highs. It's not true. Meta's right here, mid-range. Microsoft's mid-range. Google's back at the highs. Amazon's been a pain in the ass. The action's been in a lot of places, like the banks and some of the metals and some of the cryptos and some of, you name it, as well as the semis. So anyway, if you don't want to wait till 482, if it can get above and stay above 472.80, which is right here, which is nice and tight, Meta could wind up being, a nice play for the week, right? If it all of a sudden gets above this downtrend, you have a nice void there. So I would keep, see how Microsoft responds today, and Meta that doesn't have much going on. That's interesting also. What up, Dallas? How you doing? What up, Bobby in Tampa? How you doing? All right. And then you want to take a little bit of a sidestep to silver, which I went over so many different times. Look at that move. Holy cow. Look at this pullback to the 50-day and boom. We talked about silver and gold 3 different times with Liz Clayman on Fox Business, and hopefully you over allocated there. In my 2024 report, I'm like, you want to over allocate to gold if you're an asset allocator this year. Same thing with China besides everything else. Look at that move. On a different note, I got to give my boy Petey, Mr. I'm not going to say his last name. He doesn't like to be known. He's like, the man of mystery. P.S. Look at uranium. I'm sitting in $32.50 calls. I added to it here. Remember when I gave you guys the monthly charts of gold? I think when gold was at 1,900 and said it was going to 2,400. Well, look at the monthly chart of uranium. Okay, Uranus. That's like a funny statement. Anyway, look how high this was back in 2011. Okay, this was what we were showing here. This cup and handle pattern. So if it gets through 32.60, 42-ish is a spot. Obviously, it takes time to get to these things, but you look at the monthly chart, it looks really good for uranium, which I don't know what that means for the world, or I think it just means that, we're going to need a few more power sources out there to power all this AI that's been going on. So uranium wound up being a nice move, and I think it continues. Anyway, with that being said, silver, gold, uranium, then you want to go back to, what I trade every day, and that's Nvidia. Nvidia is coming out with numbers on Wednesday. Yes, my editing department put out something on Nvidia, and they said Thursday, which they were wrong. So if you remember, I kind of threaded the needle here a little bit. Red Dog threaded the needle. What do I mean by that? Well, if you remember, right into here, we were buying the 925 calls and the 950 calls, and into that moved to 958. Sold the 925, sold the 950s. It was a good thing to do. I got kind of lucky because I wasn't there that day. And then I said what I'm going to do for earnings, just in case they beat, they raise and split, which I'm not saying they're going to do, but if they do, I want to be involved because that means Nvidia could be 1,050 or 1,100, maybe. So into this little pullback, I bought some $1,000 calls. So we'll see what happens today. We'll see, does it try and do a pre-earnings move, or do they sell the strength? Like if you look right now, Nvidia this morning it's up $13. So it's back in 937. This high here is what? This is 947. So you might just have an inside day. Here's Palantir, and here, which is doing a whole lot of nothing. So we'll see what happens. It'd be nice if, if Nvidia holds today and moves up. If it has one of those days where it holds and moves up and gets closer to, I actually even said the statement here. I did sell mine. This was an old chart, and I always explain what I'm doing in the language. So if you want to understand, and sometimes you can't see it, turn the iPhone the other way, and then you could see the language. So we talked about selling the 925 and 950s, which we did. I'm not in the stock. And I said I would buy on the way down, which I bought probably half of what I want. If we were to rally up today and tomorrow, maybe then I create a call spread, just have a little less risk, and I let the action help finance it. That's the way I'm doing it. That's the way I'm thinking about it. Anyway, as far as the meme trades, kind of cute, right? It lasted for 2 days. if you remember a week ago on Monday when everybody started talking about it and going nuts, I'm like, guys, the GME trade started at 12 and 18. If you're chasing it up here in the 50s and 60s, you're out of your goddamn mind. And anyway, AMC wound up being a great trade because it gave you a huge volume at 3.5, and then sold them all the way up to 11. And 11, I tweeted them like, I'm done with AMC. Yes, pro traders could trade these also, but we do it responsibly because the stock market's not a casino. And AMC wound up hitting that one gap, didn't make it to the other two that everybody was thinking was going to happen, and now came back to here, and chances are it's out of play forever again, or just unless we see something. But this was your candlestick that said, hey, maybe we could have some kind of follow through, and it did. It hit 1188. You had to sell that, and then there's been a whole lot of nothing. Same thing with GME. Thank goodness. Anyway. So what else is going on this week? So let's talk. So some guys like, what about Bitcoin? Okay. I think I'm going to go out and buy more options in Bitcoin, a little bit out there, just because at some point it feels like, this Bitcoin is going to have a much bigger move, or more of a momentum move. Like here's been some resistance. Okay. If you remember, Bitcoin failed up here, right? 73, 71, 72. So I would think, it's going to get above this spot. Might be a Memorial Day weekend. You can actually, let's coin Red Dog right here. Maybe we have a Memorial Day weekend crypto weekend with Bitcoin. So we continue to build, and then we're off for the weekend, and then Bitcoin works its way into this area. That'd be fun, right? So if that's going to happen, you probably want to go out, not for this Friday, for next Friday, and buy some BITO calls that correlate to this spot, so maybe it sees that spot. Or you could be in the IBIT, whatever you want to do. But I'm just talking out of my tush right now. It does feel like you had an igniting bar. It's got a nice bull flag. You have this upper area, and then that's not even the breakout. That's just back into resistance where it fell right into here. So I would think at some point that's going to happen. Maybe you could play Mister. Maybe you could play some of the other ones, but it seems like it's going to happen. What up, Sam? Good morning from the drought land in Miami. I heard it did rain this weekend, though. The Knicks. The Knicks were so damn depleted. There's nothing you could do about it. Even if they won, like they would not even been able to play the next series. So, they worked hard. They showed hard. They had teamwork. It was a fun run. Indianapolis shot friggin' like top percentage ever. So there's just nothing you could do about it, and say have some gratitude for a fun season with hard and grit. It was fun to watch. Maybe next year they go a little bit further. But anyway, so that's what Bitcoin looks like. Looks pretty good. What else? Someone just said to me, yeah, Lily's a little bit of a pain. Why is it a pain? Because it's still in this channel. Channels can go on for a long time. If you remember, I told you into this spot, I bought some $810 calls. I did give it enough time. I think I bought June 14. So I have a whole almost month for this to break out above this. For right now, it's just in here. Don't overtrade it. When things are in channels, you could try and put some calls on, but then once it ignites, then you buy the stock and the options. But if it hasn't done anything yet, you don't want to get too big, because sometimes they take longer than you thought. So these are the 614s. Amazon Jack is a pain in the arse. Amazon got above that level for a day, and it really just so annoying. I hate to say it, but you look at the chart, and the chart looks fine for Amazon. It's got a little bit of a bull flag, a little bit of a descending channel, but Amazon the last time it got up here was when the stock market needed to correct 5.5%. So I get it. And then it got up here again, and then just failed. So I guess, will I be able to get the wherewithal to go after this again if it gets above like this 187 area? I guess so, because the stock doesn't remember that, traders are annoyed by it. What's Amazon doing today? It's up 60 cents, 185. We'll see. It came in overall. It's if you think about it, from here to up there, it had too big of a move into prior resistance, so it was hard to sustain it. So now, it did hold the top third and go sideways. So I guess we'll have to rework our mind that we can play Amazon again, even though it was a big pain in the butt. So if you want, go out 2 weeks maybe and buy the 190 calls, or wait for it to get above this, or maybe be long versus 182.75. So there's a lot of ways to do it. You could be long versus support, not trying to buy strength. You could be long versus support and add when things take out a level, or you can just go out and play options and say, hey, I'm not going to overdo this. If my thought process is right, I'll get paid that way. So how do you want to do it? Exactly. It does frustrate. Sometimes that's what these things are made to do. They don't want everybody to join. The stock market doesn't want to make it easy for anybody, right? So it wants to frustrate as many people as it does, usually in a channel. And then once everyone's frustrated enough, and then it ignites. So it's your job to stay the course for when it ignites. So I guess if it gets above 187.60, that'll be good. Same thing for Meta. If Meta wants to get going and get back towards the highs, it's going to have to get above and stay above 482, and you could probably cheat at 473. So anyway, AMD was decent last week. At this point, I don't know if I'm going to take AMD as a correlation play with Nvidia. We made money on that news and the move. It broke that downtrend. You want to see what AMD looks like? Here's what AMD looks like. Still fine. If you remember, we were hyper focused on that Wednesday, and I had a nice move. And even if you bought the dip, it was up 4 or 5 points into the news that Microsoft will use some of their chips. I took it off, though. I got to figure out if I want to put it back on or not. All right, guys, I got to jump. We have a busy week. Stock market made all-time highs. If you kept your program or your strategy or your discipline, and you kept putting monthly flows in for the last 20 years, you're chilling. If you have a process where you trade the market, actively for a living and get paid every month and quarter, you better make sure you work on that. You don't just throw sugar honey iced tea against the wall or follow people who bet the over in gambling games because he could win once, but you don't win in the stock market. You're consistent, you're concise, you have defined risk, and you make sure when the probabilities say the setup is good, you go after it. You just don't do whatever. Anyway, so I appreciate you guys. I will be in all week this week. And then at the end of the week, I'll go over my calendar because, I might have to be out for a little bit of time, which I'll discuss. Anyway, I appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck this week. We'll try and connect the dots and make sure that we participate in a way, that our risk is defined and we can, net some money, because that's the name of the game, netting money actively and positioning long term. So this way, one day when you're in your golden years, you could have some fun versus being stressed out. Later, guys. Later, Scotty. Later, Sully. Later, Ryan.